We are back for another episode of NPC Next Portable Console. I'm John Voorhees. I've got Brendon Bigley with me, straight from New York City.
Hello.
Hello. We do not have Mr. Petici with us. He has an ill dog, but who is on the mend, fortunately, but he'll be back next week. So Brendon and I are going to hold the fort down this week, and we've got lots of news to talk about.
There's so much, John.
There's a lot. It's been a busy week. You know, it's good. I mean, I think when the iPhones come out, everything quiets down. It's remarkable to watch the tech industry when iPhones are announced. Nobody releases any news, press releases. Nobody has any new products. It just dries up for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's coming back to life, which is good.
Yeah. Total unrelated, total non sequitur. I was sick last week, which I'm sure a lot of people heard.
Yeah.
I also needed to go away for a wedding.
Right.
After that, and I was at Buffalo, which famously, kind of it's a city, but it's kind of a sleepier city.
Yeah.
John, I spent so much time playing the Switch 2 in my hotel room in Buffalo.
Really?
I really
That's sleepy, huh?
Yeah, I put the D brand kill switch through its paces with Silksong a little bit, but most of it I had plugged into this setup here, and I was recording it and streaming it and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But every once in a while I'd take it out of the dock and play around with it and do okay. But John, the amount of Hades 2 I've played in handheld mode with the kill switch,
nice.
That case is rock solid for handheld play for an extended. I have literally drained the battery entirely multiple times in handheld mode at this point.
Nice.
Feeling very confident in saying that that's a pretty good Switch 2 case for people who are interested in it at this point.
Very nice. Well, I've been messing around with my Genki case that I talked about a little bit on past episodes. And I think Federico explained on last episode or the one before that he's been using the small grips. It has three different sizes. He's been using the smallest. I've kind of settled on the medium in the middle place there, which are similar in size, I'd say, to what you get on the Portal, for instance, the Ein Portal. That kind of, that's a pretty typical size, I think, for a lot of these handhelds.
Yeah.
I think D-brand's kill switch is a little bit beefier than that, from what I can tell from the photos.
Yeah, it's way more Steam Decky. There's a lot more of a kind of back to wrap your hand around,
almost like a handle for your hands.
Exactly, which honestly I think is what I need, especially when you're deep in the wells of Tartarus, trying to take out Kronos, the Titan of Time.
Yep. Very
Hades
good.
fans, someone talking about. We'll talk about it eventually, but we got a bunch of accessories including new cases to test out. So stay tuned eventually for us to put some other cases through their paces and talk about maybe what we think is the best Switch 2 case. Eventually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're starting to see accessories really flow in from all the major manufacturers now.
Yeah.
In earnest, which is good. Speaking of Genki too, I should shout out Genki because they did the right thing and they're sending me a new energy pack.
Oh, good. Yeah.
After I sent them videos showing them how, yes, it is in fact broken and I'm not just trying to scam you. They are in fact sending me a new one. So hopefully that'll be here in another week or two. Because for the 24 hours it worked, it was awesome.
Great. Yeah. Love to see it. That's funny. I do think it's worth mentioning also, one of the accessories that you've been testing, which we'll talk about eventually, is a Joy-Con charger that does have magnetic. You were just telling me before we started recording, does have the magnetic attachments on the sides to plug in, which that's exciting. That's the thing that you and I specifically have been talking about a lot, on and off the show, is okay, when accessories manufacturers start to figure out the magnetic attachments, we're going to see some cool stuff.
Yep. And, MobiPad, we talked about them before. They have something similar with their adapter for their existing MobiPad from the Switch 1. And when you look at this, I'm looking at this charging thing that charges 4 Joy-Con, the interface is identical to the one you see on the side of the Switch screen. So this is a part that is obviously available for manufacturers now. And hopefully it gets built into more things as we go along, including third-party Joy-Con setups.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. I want this stuff to come earlier. I mean, this is the thing I've said many times. I want this stuff to come earlier because I feel like all the best Switch accessories came right at the end. Not even right at the end, but at the point where we were all very aware Switch 2 was coming.
Yes. So the last couple of years, really, for sure. And I think I'm afraid that if they don't hit this holiday season, that we won't see them until like
Next holiday
CES
season?
or
Oh, yeah.
middle of the year. We'll hear them announced next year early, but we won't
Yeah.
get them until next year later. And I'm kind of hoping that actually they're in the works behind the scenes and we'll actually get them, maybe late October, early November.
You and I said this at CES earlier this year.
Yeah.
Like, we were literally in Las Vegas on the show floor of CES, and I remember us saying to each other, we probably should have come next year.
Yes.
Like, if we're going to pick one year to go to CES next year, like 2026 was definitely the year to do it. Because I'm sure next year is like, because this year it was cool to see companies with Switch 2 stuff on the show floor, right?
Yeah.
It was like, we visited a couple of booths where it was like, here's the screen protector. This is our first version of maybe a case, and you could like hold something that kind of felt like the Switch 2. But next year,
Yeah.
I mean, next year is going to be like all actual Switch 2 accessories.
See, now you're starting to convince me to maybe I should go again. I actually had that moment. I was like, I don't think I want to go to CES 2 years in a row, but I don't know. It might be. We'll have to talk about it.
Well,
later.
also because also all the chips that launched last year were like the kind of halfway chips. They were
Yes.
like
Yes.
decent chips, but not like. And I feel like next year is also going to be the big year for chips, probably.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
Man.
I don't know. We'll see.
Next year is also going to be a big one for a bunch of handhelds. How's that as a segue? Because a lot of handhelds just got announced recently, and a bunch of other ones are like out in the wild, which is exciting. There are a bunch of new handhelds to look at. I think the one that I just want to shout out, like right at the top, because it's the one that I'm the most interested in, most excited about. Anbernic is teasing a DS now.
Yeah.
Their own DS. And what's interesting about it, we don't fully know the specs. Obviously some people on Reddit have like tried to Reddit detective their way into knowing exactly what the dimensions of it are. But we don't even know like actually the full size of it. That said, though, it sure looks almost exactly like the DS Lite.
It really does.
Just with analog sticks on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like the spitting image of it. What's interesting to me is I was looking at an article in Retro Handhelds.
Yeah.
And there are two images. There's the video that you mentioned, but then there's also this image floating around of like a transparent green model, but it has the little Google Gemini logo in the corner.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that. Is that on that article?
It is. If you scroll down a little bit. There, and
God,
so they said, obviously this could be AI generated, which made them think maybe the video is too. And I will note about that video is that Anbernic usually uses like kind of country music, like cowboy music for their videos, and this is very much a techno type of vibe behind that video that they did.
Oh, maybe it's not
so
real.
I don't know if it's real or not.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, well, I hope it's real, because the thing that I've been thinking about specifically is like we have the Aya Neo Pocket DS, which is exorbitantly expensive. There are people in the Discord for this show who own it, who seem to like it a lot, which is great. If you're comfortable paying that amount of money, like it's a great device. It's gigantic. It costs a lot, but whatever. It works, and that's kind of the thing that matters the most right now, because it's a very like cutting edge device. We have the Thor coming, which we're starting to see some demos of the Thor. I know Joey from Joey's Retro Handhelds just did a live stream of him like unboxing and setting it up.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, that happened last night. And seems to be mostly positive on it, which is good. And that's kind of in like a middle price bracket. And it would make a lot of sense for Anbernic to be like, we're not targeting 3DS or Wii U at all. Like, this is a device that is cheaper and is for the Nintendo DS and, other stuff that's 4x3 that fits that top screen. But that makes a lot of sense to me. I've seen a lot of people who are like, why wouldn't you just make the top screen 16:9 anyway? Just, if you have enough power to have two screens and the DS, like, why not, get some more aspect ratios in there. But I think if this thing is like even $120 to $130, let's just like pick a price bracket out of nowhere. If this thing is even around that price, I still think that's like a pretty decent ask for a Nintendo DS emulator specifically. Like, if you have something that's in the form factor of the Nintendo DS and will realistically have better screens than Nintendo DS and probably allow you to upscale games a little bit more than Nintendo DS, then like the thing that you're always competing against if you're making a dual screen device, I think, is the army of people who are like, just buy a DS. The best place to play DS games and 3DS games is on original hardware.
Yep.
Increasingly, that's becoming either more difficult to do or more expensive to do, or you're going to need to replace more parts or make sure that they come refurbished. At that point, you're kind of in the $100 price range at the very least anyway.
Yes.
Just for the unit itself, not even talking about like adding on, buying new styluses or getting a charger or whatever, which are like OEM chargers or whatever. Like there are all of these extra factors that come with the like just play it on original hardware side, which, I agree the best place to play those games is on original hardware, but that's not going to be possible forever for most people. It's not going to be as easily accessible as, for example, a new device made by a company like Anbernic that's around the same price. I feel like if they can target that kind of price range and say like, it's a niche thing, it's a niche device, and it's priced kind of competitively, against the Nintendo DS on the used market and not against the Iron Thor or the iNeo Pocket DS. Like, I think that would be a really smart move for them. And then we'd have the whole price bracket covered basically.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that kind of price range makes a lot of sense because you can also sell it as well. It's 4x3, so it's going to be really great for Game Boy Advance and good for SNES. I mean, you'll be able to play a lot of other games through, down from the DS as well.
Exactly.
And undoubtedly be a nice enough screen. I mean, better than you can obviously get with original hardware. So I'm interested in it. I think it's the rumors of an Anbernic DS type device go way back from before we even started the show. I think people have been talking about it for a very long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if this has been in the works for in development for a long time.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, it looks like it's running Android, which is smart. Because I think my worst fear was that they were going to try to go with like some kind of Linux-based handheld and really build an operating system from scratch for this thing. Which, I mean, my feelings about stock operating systems on Linux devices is pretty dour, I would say. I mean, maybe eventually somebody could work something out, but I'm glad they're just going the Android route here, at least based on these images that may or may not be real.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. Yeah. I want to get your take on what Xiaomi is doing with this camera bump Game Boy style video game thing. Let me kind of paint a picture of what this is.
Yeah.
So Xiaomi has a phone, a mobile phone.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like like an iPhone essentially, with a camera bump that extends across the back of the phone at the top with two lenses on the left side and a screen on the right side, unlike an iPhone. And that screen can be used to display a clock, notifications, other things like that. Well, they just released an accessory that is essentially a little bit like a Game Boy accessory. You put it on your phone, and unlike the ones that we've seen in the past, like the Game Baby, this is not a thing that you flip over and put on the front of your phone onto the main screen of your phone. This just sits on your phone like a regular phone case. And because there's that screen, you have face buttons, you have a D-pad, and you have like start and select and power, and you can play presumably by Bluetooth, I would suspect.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
It's not real. I don't think it really said, but I watched a little bit of the video of this, which was a wild video.
Yeah.
It's a very long video for what this thing is. I only watched about half of it, but I want to get your take on this because I look at this, I think this is both fun to see and also completely impractical, and I'd use it like twice and never again, probably.
Yeah. Okay. It's worth, first of all, just to back up, one of my favorite things about this Xiaomi lineup is that it's just Xiaomi, what is it? Xiaomi 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. I'm amazed they didn't throw an Air in there.
Just like iPhones.
Yeah. They should have released an Air. But the thing about this, I'll say this, from a phone perspective, I like the idea of the camera bump also being a little display. I think that's a cute idea. I think that's really interesting. I remember like even going all the way back to my time on Android when I used to switch back and forth every year. I always really enjoyed on Android having the like little LED indicator that told me what notifications I had instead of
Right.
the whole screen turning on. Like just having like a little green dot that's like you got a text was really nice. Um,
It's very BlackBerry.
yeah, very much. I really enjoy that stuff. So I feel like having a little tiny like modular screen that tells me some stuff is nice in terms of not having me check my phone all the time. That said, if they wanted this thing to be used as an emulator or as a retro handheld, quote unquote, this is not the camera layout for that, unfortunately. So the
No.
camera bump actually looks a lot like the iconic plateau of the current lineup of iPhones, right? The iPhone 17 Pro, which you have, um,
Yep.
basic, it's kind of this like very rounded rectangle. The iPhone 17 Pro has three cameras on it, a three camera module, and then it's little what is it, like the AR sensor and the flash and stuff. So it
On
kind
the
of looks
right.
like a
Yeah.
spider's face. There's just a lot of circles there. The Xiaomi phone, they just have two cameras like tucked on the left side, like they're kind of left aligned. They still
Yeah.
have the whole rounded rectangle thing going on, but it's
Right.
just the two cameras on the left. What that essentially leaves you with is this square almost. It's like a kind of square left in the plateau, the less iconic plateau, I should say.
The screen
And
seems to kind of go around the cameras a little bit, doesn't it? Or
it
does it
does,
not?
yeah.
Yeah.
It also
That's what
goes
I
around the
thought.
cameras, which I think is, I mean, that's unusable space, basically. It's weird that they did that in the first place.
Yes.
The
It's
thing
like
for me about
tiny
this
amount of space.
is like the only system that seems reasonable to play on it maybe ever is the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Just because the aspect ratio of the screen. Like if you were to try and play a Game Boy Advance game
Right.
on this specifically, I mean, they might try to fill up all that space where the camera bump is, and then you're just missing the left side of the screen entirely. But I feel like in the event that they allow you to shift where the screen is showing up, you could have some fun playing Game Boy on here. The thing that actually gets me more than anything, John, is like if I were to have this case on my phone, I just don't think I'd like the way the buttons felt like sliding into and out of my pocket. I think that that would actually be the killer for me more than anything else, more than the usability of it. Because, like, usability be damned. Like, if I could play a game on my phone, I'm going to.
Yeah.
But something about the like sliding into my pocket and hearing the
The face buttons and the D-pad, and there's a
yeah,
bunch of other buttons. Yeah, that's not great. Well, I mean, what I thought was funny about this video too, and some of the promotional shots, is one of the games that they're using to promote it is Angry Birds, which is
yeah,
very much a game where you have action going on the very left edge of the screen.
yeah. It's almost entirely left aligned to that game. Yeah,
Right. And here you have a screen where the whole left side is interrupted by cameras. Now, I did watch the video and it looks like this is a custom version of Angry Birds on some level.
hmm,
Because first of all, I don't think the screen is touch sensitive. So you're not doing the same kind of gesture mechanics you would with Angry Birds on an iPhone or an Android device or whatever.
yeah,
So a typical Android screen. So I don't know how much fun that game would be to begin with. It looked like what the guy was doing was using the D-pad to aim up and down and then pressing the A button to let go,
yeah.
which, all right. And then he played Snake, some kind of custom version of Snake.
Yeah.
I don't
They
know.
they show at the very beginning like a RetroArch logo also.
I saw that, yeah.
But then they don't show any RetroArch gameplay. And I mean, there are settings in RetroArch that allow you to like kind of shift the screen around and stuff. So I think there's a way to make it usable. Honestly, like Xiaomi makes like decent phone. Like
Oh,
their
sure,
hardware
yeah.
is like good. I imagine this controller probably feels pretty good, and it is pretty flat. Despite what I'm saying about it, like it feels like it would probably fit into a pocket pretty well. It just feels like such a classic case of a classic case, um, a classic case of a phone company being like, we've created a modular future for cell phones. Which we've been hearing all the way since like Motorola acquired that company. I forget the name of it in like 2014 or whatever. It just never really works, you know.
Yeah.
The only way it really works is when you have something as ubiquitous as the iPhone, say, and then you can start making things like specifically for the iPhone because everyone who has an iPhone basically has the same thing going on.
Yep.
Uh, It's cute that they made this. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but I'm glad that they did. And I appreciate, I'll always say this, I will always appreciate when a company goes out of its way to make something weird for gamers.
Yes, but I think the verdict at the end of the day, Brendan, is NPC, not playable case.
Not playable case, definitely. I don't think it is. I agree. That was a good one. Do you want to talk about
Yeah,
the
thank you.
Xiaomi thing that is interesting?
I do.
Well,
I
okay,
do.
wait. Let me reel that back. The case is interesting.
The case is interesting.
The
That's
case
true.
is
But
interesting. Let's talk about the thing
something
that's probably good. How about that?
yes, yes, the thing that's actually probably very useful, and
Yeah.
this caught my eye. It's the Xiaomi Pad Mini, which is kind of Xiaomi's version of the iPad Mini, but with significantly better specs.
Yeah.
And it caught my eye because of all the times we've talked to Federico about his Lenovo Legion Tab. And this is a tablet with a bigger screen than the iPad Mini. It's 8.8 inches. It's 1880 by 3008. Interesting resolution. 165 hertz refresh rate and 700 nits of brightness, all of which, yeah, so it's 16 by 10, I guess, is that aspect ratio. So it's a very nice screen by all looks of it. Comes in a couple of configurations. 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, and then 12 gigabytes of RAM and 512 of storage. 2 USB-C ports, DisplayPort 1.4 for external monitors, and what else? It's running Android 15, and it's got a pretty big battery. It's about 50% bigger than the iPad Mini, which is pretty beefy. Now, it's selling for what is roughly $500 US, but it is, according to the article I read, only going to be available in Singapore, Malaysia, and UAE, not in Europe, not in America, not in a bunch of other places. So this is getting a very, very limited release, which I was kind of surprised at, but I would have thought at least it would make its way to Europe, but it's not. But by the looks of it, it looks really nice.
It does look really nice. Yeah, I would consider this if it was available here, definitely. Can I tell you the thing that actually, like, first, I don't know why this was the thing. This is maybe my, Federico gets, extremely high-end Android devices running Windows games, and for some reason this is my brand, but I just really like the dual USB-C ports on it. Brendon dual USB-C ports bigly over here.
Yes, that caught my eye too. I would love to have a second USB-C port on any iPad at this point. Really.
Well, what I like specifically is, if I'm understanding the images correctly, one of them is on like the bottom of it, and then one of them is on the side.
Right.
Which I think is really smart for a bunch of different accessories. So hypothetically, because it's a mini tablet, if you had, one of those controllers, kind of like a backbone or something, one of those extendable ones, like you could get it around the side, kind of in landscape mode, have a great time there. But for Federico's use case with the Lenovo tablet, being able to flip that and then also use the same controller sideways and be able to play like 3DS or DS, very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And the chipset is good. It seems like a great device. I think if it was available here, I would consider it. But also, I'm sure there's going to be ways to import it if you want to.
Yeah, there are always those handheld companies like that'll do that. That's how Federico got his. His tab is the Chinese version, not the one that was eventually released in Europe and the US. But this doesn't, and maybe Xiaomi will start releasing this at some point more widely worldwide. But for now, it's just in those 3 countries, according to this article that I read. Yeah,
but I would consider. I would very much consider this device. Yeah, it's cool. I also like there's a little hand strap on it.
Yeah, oh yeah, they had an accessory that you could attach a little hand strap. That was pretty good. I like that too. I have to mention this really weird thing I ran across this week, Brendon.
I'm excited about this one.
We were at CES, and actually after you left, because you left the day before me, I went to one of those creepy hotel rooms and learned all about MEMS. And MEMS are solid state chips that vibrate, basically.
Yeah.
And so they can be used in a lot of different use cases. The main thing is to cool things off. So whether it's SSDs or whatever it is, they can move air across chips without having to have mechanical fans, which is becoming more and more important when we have little earbuds and watches and smaller and smaller phones and all that kind of thing. Well, Qualcomm showed off as part of their event. I mean, we talked about all the chips. What we didn't see was they have effectively made a coaster that is also a computer. This is a bright red round computer that's really no taller than a USB-C port. That is a little mini computer using the some of the Snapdragon chips.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of fascinated with this as a computer because, you know, we've seen a lot of like, oh, you know, the iPhone Air has all the guts of it are around the camera, and you know, we've got all this miniaturization happening. Well, these guys decided to make something that looks like a coaster that you put on your coffee table, essentially. It's not much bigger than that, really.
Yeah, it's hard to illustrate, I think. I'm literally just like looking around my office trying to find something that's like around the same size. But actually, you know what? I have this Warby Parker glasses cleaner. If you
It's
just
about that size.
if you took a circle out of this, it would be like about this size. So it's like a little bit bigger than a coaster would be normally, but it's still not big. Like even compared to my mini PC that I have on my desk right now, it's maybe like a 30th of the size of that, which is remarkable.
Yeah, and it's just slightly taller than a USB-C port. And the reason I mentioned MEMS is because that's how they cool it. They use the MEMS chips to pass air over the chips and cool it down. So I don't know. It's a prototype. I mean, you know what it looks like? It looks like a compact disc. It looks like maybe 5 compact discs stacked up, or a DVD. You know, I mean, it looks like it's close to that size, I would say.
Yeah, that's actually a great way of putting it. Yeah, it's DVD sized, and imagine if you stacked enough of them that they were as tall as a USB-C port. It's about as thick. I'm trying to pop it out of the case as quickly as the bumper case as quickly as I possibly can. It's about as thick as the iPhone Air, which I'm holding up at the moment.
Yeah, it is about that. It looks like
maybe
thick. maybe a little bit thicker than that, but not much.
But I think it's worth mentioning the chip that's in there is the Snapdragon. It's the X2. It's like the X2 line of chips, which is like that's a powerful chip. That's the kind of chip that's in the handhelds that we're like excited to buy in a year or two. You know, which means that this thing is like packing some legitimate heat.
Yep.
It's exciting. It's an exciting form factor. I think I'm very interested. So. I'm very interested in like just where these experiments go. I think, you know, you're right to bring it up because it's like, you know, next portable console. Like it's real early for this kind of stuff. But if this is where computers are headed, form factor wise.
Yeah. Now look, if you get some decent IO, I don't know what kind of USB-C ports those are, but if you had something that that supported DisplayPort or something.
Yeah,
this could be very much a portable console. You hook it into a TV, you have a portable monitor, you have this thing and a controller and some sort of screen you can attach to, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I would buy this literally right now and plug it into my television, like no question.
Yeah, then someone would come over to your house and they'd put a drink on it, and you'd be like, "No,
yeah, it would actually
my $5,000 computer."
They should make it actually a coaster. They should make it waterproof also while they're at it. If we can make phones waterproof, we can make coaster-sized computers waterproof. Sometimes the form factor of a device demands certain features, you know what I mean? And I feel like IPv6 waterproofing is at least a necessity in your coaster-shaped device.
Yes, for sure.
What else we got, John?
Oh, we've got more Windows handhelds. The high end of the Windows handheld market is going crazy because One X Fly has introduced the day after GPD went on Indiegogo. One X Fly announced the Apex, and the Apex kind of turns the GPD Win 5 up to 11.
Yeah.
With we talked about the GPD Win 5, and the Win 5 could go to I think it was 75 watts. This thing can go to 120 watts of power.
120 watts.
Yes, and it's a bigger screen too. It's an 8-inch screen.
Yeah, with liquid cooling. Also, in case you're wondering what's going on with the heat with 120 watts.
Yeah. I mean, it's got the same chipset as the Win 5. So in that sense, it's very much similar, but it is bigger, and the power threshold there is really kind of amazing.
Yeah. Is the battery attached to this thing?
I think it's external. It's the same sort of.
Also an external
I think
battery.
it's a
Yeah.
similar setup. Also, I think they're both 85 watts. I
Mm.
wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody out there who's like, oh, we're just the maker of 85-watt external batteries for Windows handhelds, from all
Just
these different
happened to get in
companies.
touch with 1xFly and yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
GPD teams. Um, I mean, again, talking, very weirdly similar to Qualcomm's Coaster computer. Um, we're really like we're pushing the cutting edge of this stuff right now.
Oh, we
It's like,
really are.
these things are more powerful than our ability to dissipate heat at the moment.
Right.
Which is exciting. It feels like we're kind of on this track, and we've been on this track, I would say, even since like the Odin 2. Like the Odin 2, I think very famous, as you and I have said many times. It's like it's more powerful than it needs to be. The thing that's lacking really is like software and a bunch of other things, but like the
Hmm.
chipset itself is fine. And I feel like that's where we're at here. It's like the chips just keep getting better,
Yeah.
and we can keep pushing better and better performance out of them. Um, but everything else hasn't really caught up. Our battery
Right.
technology is not caught up. Our cooling like is kind of caught up, but not so much. Uh, it's
Yeah,
wild.
I think that's kind of where a lot of these chips are going to go to. What we're going to see is less of a performance bump coming up, and more power
Mm,
efficiency, right? Very
yeah,
much like what Apple's done with Apple Silicon is that,
yeah,
there's once those Apple Silicon chips came out, the curve of their improvement has been fairly modest, but
yeah.
the power that they require has continued to go down. And that's where I think a lot of these Windows handhelds need to get to, because
Mm,
the whole thing between cooling and battery life, it's just really tough to keep these things going for more than an hour or two of gameplay.
yeah, yeah. I do. It's funny because there are some articles out there. This is no shade, to be clear, but there are some articles out there that are like specifically pairing this up against a Steam Deck. It's like, why would you ever buy a Steam Deck when this exists? And I'm like, it's because this is at least gonna start at twice the price. At least it
I was
might
going to
even be
say
3 times the
I was going
price.
to say it's closer to 3. We don't
Yeah,
know, by the way, what the One X Fly Apex is going to cost, but we
yeah,
do know that the Win 5 is 2,000 plus, depending on the configuration that you're
yeah,
ordering. By the way, too, Russ over at Retro Game Court did do a kind of first look at the GPD Win 5.
yeah,
So that's if you're curious about these Windows handhelds and the high end, that's a very good video to watch to
yeah.
get some more information.
In both cases, both the One X Fly and the GPD Win. And I saw some chatter in the Discord about this also.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting that neither of them have OLED displays.
Yeah, it is.
It feels like, and I forget, I think it was Jason in the Discord who said specifically, it's like charging $1,800 for a device that doesn't have an OLED display, like if you're trying to build the biggest and the best and the most hardcore handheld that exists on the market, if you want really it to be like as flagship gets,
Right.
weird to not have it be OLED.
And you would think that given the prices that they're charging, that there's enough margin in there for them to include those more expensive parts like that.
Yeah.
And OLED generally is a
Right. Yeah.
lower power part as well, so that would help on battery life. That is pretty odd. I mean, I think this all goes back to those conversations and those rumors we heard about how it was hard to do OLED on some of these devices way back when. Remember when you and
Yeah.
I talked about that?
Yeah, that
That
and also the 120 hertz of it all, right? Is because like
yeah,
I think one of the things that both of these devices is really going all in on in the marketing is, if you're playing X, Y, or Z game, you're pushing above 60 hertz. You're pushing above 60 frames per second. And if
hmm,
they're both trying to push 120 hertz refresh rates on these things, like
yeah, that's a good
famously,
point.
that's difficult to do with OLED, with the exception for some reason of Lenovo and the Legion Go 2, which we still haven't seen proof of them being able to pull that off. But
Right, right.
from what I have read, at least, and I might be misinformed, please let me know in the comments if I am. But from what I have read, there are like technological barriers between getting an OLED display to refresh at 120 hertz.
Yeah.
So we'll see what Lenovo has cooked up, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if it's proprietary. I guess we'll find out.
Could be. Could be. I don't remember if this information was out last episode, but the Asus
Oh yeah,
ROG Xbox Ally X
yeah,
is $999.
yeah. I don't think it's weird to think about because I saw all those articles pop up when the pre-orders opened up, but I think they
Yeah.
hadn't announced the prices until
I
then.
think I don't think the price was available until the pre-orders were live, which
Yeah.
is kind of wild.
There are a lot of reasons to not be buying Microsoft products at the moment. In the case of
Yes.
this, I think it's just it's the price. Like the price, like that's a high price for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also the thing that really gets me, John, specifically,
Yeah.
is the Asus ROG Xbox Ally, not the X, is $600. And like at that price, I just can't recommend that compared to like most other stuff that you could buy.
What is it that makes this one special?
I don't know. It's about as powerful as the Steam Deck.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, is this a Microsoft tax thing? You know, are you paying a premium just to get their stripped down version of Windows? I don't know.
I guess like it
Doesn't
just
appeal.
That device in particular is the most confusing to me, and I feel I don't want to say I feel bad for, but like I definitely I hope that the people who are considering it do a little bit more digging into it. You know what I mean?
I hope that Microsoft has backstopped Asus on some level, because I have a feeling this thing is not going to sell super well.
No, I don't think so either. Even honestly, like I've been talking to some people, like even the not Xbox Ally X is a more interesting purchase right now. I think really the only thing that the Xbox version has, I mean, obviously the chip is a little bit better, right? It's the Z2 instead of the Z1 Extreme.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like the thing that is the most interesting to me are the ergonomics of it. Like it's actually the literal build of it is really the only thing I think it has going for it. Like, I mean, the Ally X has been an unbelievable device in my life. Like it is basically powerful enough to do pretty much anything you would want to do on a Windows handheld like this. I can't imagine paying another extra $100 or two just to get like a slight performance boost on the things I'm already playing just fine on this.
Right.
You know, like that's the thing that really gets me at the end of the day. Where you could also get on the refurb market and get an Ally X, a non-Xbox Ally X, for probably, if I were to guess, like $700.
Right. Yeah,
these days?
I would think so.
And then you could take if you earmarked $1,000 for an Xbox ROG Ally X, you could then get a refurb one for like $700 and then use that extra money to buy an SSD and increase the storage by like 8 times, like I did.
Yeah, and still have some money left over for some games.
Yeah, exactly. Every once in a while, I turn this thing on and I go to install a game. I'm like, oh, I should check and make sure my storage isn't full. I've used like a third of it. I've installed like every game I would ever want to play on. I've used like a third of the storage on this thing.
That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Can I actually this reminded me. Somebody messaged me on Blue Sky the other day about my mini PC. They're just asking questions about the mini PC because I was talking about it on here. They asked the question though, which I have been thinking about. I've been like really mulling over in my head, which is, are you still using Windows on it, or are you using SteamOS? And I'm like,
oh, that's a good question.
I mean, I'm still using Windows on it, but as soon as I asked that, like it really got the gears turning in my head.
No, that's what I mean. It's a good question because I immediately thought, oh yeah, I wonder if he is, because that's a good idea.
It's a really good idea. I'm really interested in it. The only thing that I'm using the Windows side for right now is like easier access to emulation instead of needing to like jump through a bunch of hoops to get stuff like in a Steam library. Being able to just like have a Windows PC environment to like double click on an icon to open up an emulator is nice. For some of the stuff that I'm playing right now, but I'm considering it.
Yeah, although I mean, didn't you get it so that you could play PC games and stream them? I mean, isn't that and then that would kind of mess that up, I suppose.
Yeah, hypothetically, but I mean,
maybe
it would still work with a mouse and keyboard. You know, I
guess that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea. I hadn't really thought about that myself before, but that's That I think that's an interesting, like, if you wanted to get a feel for what a Steam OS console would be today,
Yeah.
that would be a really interesting setup. Just get a mini PC, a NUC, or something like the one you have,
Yeah.
and connect it to your TV, put Steam OS on there, and see what it was like.
Yeah. I'm almost like a for science, let's give it a shot about it, but I don't know. My setup right now I'm very happy with, but I'm wondering like
Yeah.
if any if any mini PC or NUC manufacturer out there wants to send us something to test, I would love to throw Steam OS on something and plug it into my TV and see how that feels. And just to close the loop, I'm using
Yeah.
the B-Link SER8. That's the mini PC that I use. It's a great device. I think they're on the SER10 or something at this point. But the 8 is still a great deal and plays basically everything that I have thrown at it reasonably well.
Yeah.
I think I paid like $500 for it.
Oh, that's not too bad. I mean, they have pretty good pricing on their mini PCs. I've looked at them in the past too. I think Asus has some nice NUCs now as well, although they tend to be on the expensive side.
Yeah, again, bringing up CES, those ones that we saw at CES were amazing.
Yeah, and those are only just coming out now, I think, like actually getting on the market.
Yeah. Is that it, John?
I think that's it. We've got some fun stuff.
Wait, hold up your Game Boy box.
Oh, I do have a little.
Sorry, a little tag for the end.
Okay. Look at here.
Look at that.
It's the Game Boy.
There it is.
Lego set, 421 pieces. It just came in the mail yesterday. I had the moment where I thought, I'll make this after dinner. Then I was like, oh, I'm not going to get there, and then I won't have it to show off. So I'm going to build this over the weekend, and maybe I'll show it off next week. But I'm pretty excited about it. It comes with a couple of Lego cartridges with some stickers you can put on there. There's the Zelda sticker, as well as it looks like 6 golden coins, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
And a Tetris screen that goes on it as well, I think. So,
and as I said when they first announced it, countdown begins to the first person to make a working version of it. And guess what? Literally day one of the thing being
before
out
mine even
wild.
arrived.
Yeah.
I mean, mine arrived, and I saw this article come up on The Verge by Sean Hollister because someone in Australia, I think it was Natalie the Nerd, who
already did it. What I like too specifically is like it's not an emulator. It's like literally Game Boy parts.
Yeah, the guts of a Game Boy.
It plays real cartridges, which is sick. So cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm excited about it. I haven't actually done a Lego set in like a bajillion years. My kids were very into Lego when they were young. And I don't know. This is the one that finally spoke to me, and go figure.
Yeah.
As a co-host of NPC, it's the one that I finally
feel like Lego's got all of our numbers eventually. You know what I mean?
I think so too. I really like some of the Nintendo one, the other Nintendo things they've done with some of the characters, some of the Mario and the giant Bowser.
I was able to withstand the thrall of their Animal Crossing stuff, and I think if I can withstand that, then maybe I have the willpower to avoid anything. But
I don't know. It's still out there.
It's still out there.
I've seen it.
I saw it in real life when I was in Tokyo. Like I saw them on a shelf and was like, honestly, it's a good thing that I'm seeing this here, where I need to consider suitcase space.
Right. How are you going to get Legos back to the United States?
Right. Whereas if I was at the store at 30 Rock or something, maybe it'd be a different story.
Right. All right, Brendon. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks everybody for joining us. We've got some things to talk about in NPC XL, which is our extended version of the show that you can subscribe to for $5 a month by going to Patreon and just searching for Next Portable Console. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about GeForce Now, because I've been experimenting with that again. Yes, and streaming in general. So that's going to be our topic today. In the meantime, you can find Brendon over at wavelengths.online. Now that he is no longer sick, just stuffed up, he's going to be cranking out the content again.
I spent yesterday, I made like 5 videos for the Patreon. And today is dedicated to writing the Silk Song review, working on a video, and working on short form stuff. I'm back, baby. It feels really good.
Nice. Good to hear it. I'll be checking it all out. And of course, you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net, writing about all the Apple stuff. Until next week, Brendon, I'll see you later.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.